Hello everyone, welcome. It's Tuesday Tips Live with me, Phil, here in the Digital DJ Tips studio with another lesson for you. And today it's a big one. We're talking about gas. And more importantly, do you have gas? So we're talking about gear acquisition syndrome. That is the subject of today's clickbaity, I admit, Tuesday Tips Live. So look, if you're new to all of this, we're here to help you become better DJs and better DJ producers. We're Digital DJ Tips, the biggest DJ school in the world. We're the people behind the Digital DJ Tips website that you probably know and hopefully love. And also, we are the people behind all those DJ courses, which you no doubt have seen. And maybe some of you have even bought them. We've got 27,000 students out there. We do this every Tuesday to help you become better DJs and better DJ producers. We do the same thing on Thursday. Any questions? So if you've got questions that aren't related to gear acquisition syndrome, don't worry, we'll be talking all about this in a little while. Then save them for Thursday. This is a serious issue, really, the issue of gear. It's why we've got all the gear set up here. Quite funnily, I had the chance to go through the gear and bring a load of it out and stick it all on the desk here to illustrate this idea of buying DJ gear and getting addicted to buying DJ gear. Having gear acquisition syndrome, and we're going to talk about it today. Now, if you enjoy this, as always, I'd like you to do the usual stuff: subscribe, follow, share, like, and help us to do more of these things. And it's, as I say, it's a serious question. And in fact, we asked it yesterday to our audience. We said, do you suffer from this? And what do you think? And we've got like hundreds and hundreds of comments over on our post on Facebook where we talked about this. I think we're the time of reading this out, 261 people have commented on this. So a lot of you are sharing a lot of views over there. Michael, this isn't even a problem. I can stop whenever I want. Yeah, they all say that, Michael. So Ian admits it. My name is Ian Dubbs and I'm a gear addict. Sam says, I used to be all about the latest gear, but not anymore. So Craig's blaming us for introducing him to so many of these things. There's lots and lots of comments over there. So you can go and find this. It's on the Digital DJ Tips Facebook page if you want to read some of these or maybe join in with the conversation over there. But today we're going to have that conversation live. And I want to talk to you about some reasons why DJ gear is great. I want to talk to you about some reasons why it's maybe not so good. I want to talk to you about just some interesting ideas around this idea of acquiring lots of DJ gear. And I want to end off with a truth about DJing, which might help you to get a different view on this. But of course, I want you to share what you feel as well. Do you suffer from this? Do you not suffer from it? Is it a problem for you? Is it not a problem for you? Is it a problem? It's okay for you, but your family don't like it. Do you feel you need to earn money as a DJ in order to find the money to spend on your gear? I want to know. Right, let's start off by saying hello to one or two people. Hi to all our regulars: Martin, Avinav, GM, Derek, Paul, Ronald. Hello to Deacon, who says blessings, fam. Hello, Deacon. Blessings to you too. DJ LV2D, DJ Morris, to AB, to Florian, DJ 9 Iron, and lots and lots of regulars here today. Herb and Warfare, good to have you. The Ruckus. So thank you everyone for being here. And let's start off by talking about some of the reasons why actually there's no problem here. Acquiring awesome amounts of DJ gear is actually a really good thing. Look, for most of us, DJing is a hobby. DJing is our escape. DJing is what we want to spend our money on. We don't go out gambling. We don't, or maybe we do, but this is it. This is it for us. Maybe we don't drive fast cars. We'd rather spend the money on DJ gear, and it's very satisfying to keep up with DJ gear, to read about it, to test it, to buy it, to sell it. In itself, that's not a bad thing as long as you are happy with that. Gear is cool. Let's not forget, gear is absolutely awesome. What we got here? We've got the Pioneer XDJ XZ there. We've got the Rain 70. Just at the top there, we've got the pad controller from Pioneer. We've got loads of really cool stuff that you might well want to own and enjoy owning and enjoy spending your money on. And that's fine. In itself, it's not a bad thing. And of course, some types of DJing, they need a lot of gear. If you're mobile or wedding or event DJ, and you play large venues, you're going to need PA, you're going to need lighting, you're going to need a really nice looking setup, you're going to need backup gear, you're going to need main gear, you're going to need all kinds of stuff, microphones and wireless packs, and acquiring that stuff is an awful lot of fun. And if your events are paying for it, well, it comes with the territory, doesn't it? So look, gear acquisition syndrome kind of suggests that there is a problem here. And certainly for a lot of people, there isn't. If you are in one of those categories, you're happy spending your money on gear, you're a hobby DJ, you like to collect DJ gear, you like to try the latest stuff, you like to use new things, then that's fine. But it's not always good. So here's a few interesting things before we move on to kind of the bad side of this. A few interesting points I want to make about this. The first point is that you've got to remember, as an amateur DJ, as a hobby DJ, that gear is only one of the 5 big areas of DJing. Now, those of you that know our book will know that we talk about the 5 areas of DJing on page 7 of this book. And the 5 areas of DJing are, he says, realizing that it wasn't on page 7. Page 3, actually, there you go. That's how important it is. Gear is the first one, but then we've got music and techniques, playing out and promoting yourself. These 5 areas. If you haven't got good music, gear's not going to save you. If you don't know how to use the gear, you haven't got the techniques, gear's not going to save you. If you haven't got any gigs, you're not performing anywhere, gear's not going to save you. If you can't promote yourself, the best gear's not worth having. So look, there's these 5 things that encompass what DJing is about, and gear's only one of them. That's an interesting point to remember. Another interesting point to remember that I want to raise is a truth, which is that, gear is a big part of Digital DJ Tips' business and always has been. Our SEO rose on covering DJ gear. You go to our reviews section and we've reviewed pretty much everything out there in the DJ world, and we continue to do so. Why do we do that? Because we know that people want to read reviews of gear and they want to see videos of gear and they want to understand how gear works. It's a part of our business to promote and help promote new gear and promote ways of using new gear. A lot of our DJ courses are based around gear. But that said, by the way, there isn't an Easter sale on at the moment. That's just a little test banner. Hold your horses on that one. It's not Easter yet. Some of our courses are based around gear. So you move down and have a look at some of our courses here. You will see that we have, while most of the DJing courses teach on everything, there are software and hardware courses that we've put out there as well, which are based around using particular pieces of gear sometimes. And another point I wanted to make here is one which is a historical one, and that is, it never used to be like this. When I learned to DJ, we had no money, we had no YouTube, and we had one way of DJing, which was Technics, and none of us could afford them. So we bought really cheap Gemini, Citronic turntables, belt drive, horrible things. We practiced on those for about 5 years, and then when we got our first gigs and we started to make money, we went and bought our Technics and our Pioneer DJ M600, it was at the time for me, mixer, and that was it. My gear didn't change for the next 7 years. I've still got the Technics up there now. It never used to be that gear was such a big part of DJing because there was no changes in what DJ gear was or what we had. When the CDJs arrived, it was a big thing, and they didn't really change for a long time. The original CDJ 1000s and then the 1000 Mark IIs were everywhere for a long time. And as we all know, Pioneer does not update that professional gear very often. So it's not like there's this massive gear everywhere. In the professional DJ world or in the DJ world that came before, it's only the hobby world. It's the world where people are doing this for fun, where this proliferation in gear is, and where this problem maybe exists. So we've covered some good things about gear. We've covered I wanted to make some interesting points there. Let's look at some of the bad things, some of the things that you need to be looking out for if you think you're spending a bit of money on gear. Now, the first one is straight out of the Alcoholics Anonymous cookbook. If you don't think you've got a problem, but the people around you do, and you're affecting them, maybe you have. But that's not what I wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about some of the things that we see as a school. So when we see people who are scared to start DJing, or they think that the DJing they're doing is being held back by not having the right gear, that annoys us. You can learn to DJ on one of those, and you can learn to DJ very well on one of those. It's got an audio interface, it's even got lights, it's got 2 channels, it's got effects, it's got loops, it's got an EQ section, it's got pads, it's got everything you need to DJ on, and it'll cost you $70 as long as you've got a laptop that you can plug it into. And that is all you need, and you can make mixtapes and play sets that people will not be able to tell the difference when they listen to them to someone using a full $7,000 Pioneer setup. And that is the absolute truth. So it makes me very angry when I hear, upset when I see people saying, I don't want to start DJing because I can't afford the gear, or I think it's holding me back, the gear I've got. Of course, better gear is always nice, but DJing in itself is not a difficult thing to do insofar as the equipment you need. DJing is about playing the right music for the people in front of you right now, and none of that involves the gear. So I don't want people to think that this is something that has to hold them back. And also, people tend to fall into the trap, especially amateurs, of not DJing very much, but spending an awful lot of time talking about, debating about, saving up for, selling, buying gear. And the gear is there to be used. If you've got gear you're not using, why have you got it? You should really get to the point where when you're DJing, you're just DJing. You know, you're lost in the music, you're having a great time. You don't care what gear you're using. It doesn't matter. And a little story to illustrate this. When I started Digital DJ Tips, DJing had just gone digital, and I had a Vestax VCI 300 controller, which worked with Serato. And it was one of the very early Serato controllers. It's when Serato was called Itch. It wasn't called Serato DJ Pro. And I loved that little controller. It had no effects on it. I had a filter. I think it had a filter. No, there was a little hack to get a filter to work. It was a 2-channel controller, very simple. And I DJ'd on that just in beach bars and stuff for a long time as I was building Digital DJ Tips. Now, as Digital DJ Tips grew, I was reviewing all kinds of DJ gear, getting to know all the other software platforms, basically becoming competent at what I do now, which is teach them all. So therefore, I had my hands on all kinds of gear. But whenever I played a gig, I fell back to my VCI 300. Why? Because I knew it. I knew what everything was. I knew how it worked. I just wanted to relax when I was DJing. I didn't want the stress of trying different gear and using different stuff all the time. And so DJing is not about the gear. So that's one thing to remember. So before we go any further in this, because I've talked quite a lot here, I've done the 10 minutes at the beginning to share with you the kind of pluses and minuses of this whole thing, this gear acquisition syndrome idea. Is it bad? Is it good? Does it matter? Before we go any further, we're going to have a big chunk now where it's your input. I want to know what you think. And if you get value from this, please do follow, please do like, please do share, and do all the stuff that lets us get this far and wide and share this message. So let's do it. I'm going to dive straight into the comments now, and let's get going. DJ99 is deep in buying gear. I figure I can hopefully reevaluate everything within a couple of years, but upgrades are coming soon. It's this sense of knowing that there's upgrades around the corner, isn't it, in today's world, that gets people all twitchy and gets the credit cards out. Funky DJ just says, yep, I definitely suffer from this. The Ruckus, if you mean, do I always find myself buying stuff all the time? I'm guilty of it. But a good point made by a couple of you that the average person can't be trying new gear all the time. You know, some people get very adept at buying gear and then selling it again, don't they? So they've kind of the cash flow is not so onerous that they have to stop. Ronald says, I really try to focus on one piece of gear for each specific task. I really wanted to get deeper into machiner and tractor, but NI never supported them both together. So there you go. So Ronald's thinking hard about whether to buy gear or not, and not just buying it willy-nilly. Derek, of course I have gear acquisition syndrome. Of course you do, Derek. But it isn't always the gear. If you don't put the skills forward, you won't make it anywhere. I'm working on obtaining the new Denon SC6000, not just for the skills, but for internet use as well. So, for instance, you're saying you want that because you've got all the streaming services in it. So I get that. A bit of thought gone into that one. Joseph says, morning Phil, do you think all DJ gear is the same? No, I mean, there's lots of different types, of course. All controllers do pretty much the same thing. And it's really about the software when it comes to controllers. So here's a tip for you. Don't worry too much about gear. Worry about the software. And that's why actually in our DJ courses, we've got a lot more DJ courses that teach software than hardware. So look, we've got a Serato course, a Recordbox course, a Tractor course. And the hardware courses here, one of them was made because it was the most popular controller of all time, the Pioneer DDJ 1000. And the 1000 SRT we made because all the Serato users of the 1000 said we want one. But we've never made any more hardware courses, but these courses here, Recordbox Made Easy, Serato Made Easy, and Tractor Made Easy, they sell very well. And the reason they sell well is software is difficult. Software is complex. Software needs a bit of thought. The controllers, frankly, they're just boxes. They're boxes with buttons in. The controllers are nothing more than a more ergonomically easy way of controlling your DJ software than a keyboard. And so really, I think DJ controllers pretty much are all the same, Derek. And you only need to look at how easy it is to map the software controls. If you buy a controller, hasn't got everything on it you want, you can normally map it. You can just map it to a button you're not using, the stuff you don't use. So yeah, that's a good point, Joseph. A lot of DJ gear is the same. Pete makes the pretty obvious but worthwhile point that if you can afford it, it's not a problem. We get this. Mike says, I think companies strategically choose to leave out certain features on gear to encourage you to purchase more in the near future. I mean, companies are businesses. And what we're definitely not saying here is that you don't need DJ gear or it's not worth buying DJ gear. The companies are very big on education as well, of course, and that's why they work so closely with us, because they know if you don't learn how to use their gear properly and it just goes in a drawer, you're not going to get hooked into buying more gear. So there is this kind of loop going on here. We get that. Techno Beats just joined. May I ask, what is GAS? Yeah, so for everyone who's just joined, we're talking about GAS, or Gear Acquisition Syndrome, and that's the title of today's Tuesday Tips Live. Is it a problem? Is it not a problem? Is it okay? Is it part and parcel of being a hobby DJ? Because professional DJs don't really care about this stuff. They just turn up and play on the pioneers that are there. Let us know what you think. Hello to Michael. Not seen you for a while, Michael. Hope it's all going well for you down there in the Caribbean, if I remember rightly. So DJ LV 2D says, my rule of thumb, sell something before buying something new. So that is a good rule of thumb. So Robert says, that desk filled with DJ gear. Wow, yeah, did have some fun digging out all this DJ gear. And believe me, there's a lot more around this office than the stuff we've got on the desk. So Martin says, I blame you, but I also praise you for showing new gear. I got my SB3 on your review, and I got your tripod that you use for your live stream. My partner hates seeing money going out. So there we go. So I think that's a case all the time. Remember that DJ controller I was telling you about that I bought all those years ago? I justified it to my partner by saying I'm going to get some gigs to pay for it, and I did. It was back in the days when I'd given up professional DJing. I'd left the UK where I was a professional DJ 5 days a week. And I was just in between jobs. I was just a little bit before setting up Digital DJ Tips. But I wanted to carry on DJing. And we'd sold up and moved to another country. And I said, I wish I hadn't sold my DJ gear. I want a controller. And she's like, well, we haven't got any money. And we ended up agreeing that I would get some gigs. And I did. And that's the beginning of Digital DJ Tips. So it was a good buy. But anyway, DJ Rubik's, I have committed to my DDJ 1000, but would want something else for better hardware durability, like an XDJ setup and a DJM 750 setup. Again, think hard about that, DJ Rubik's. The DDJ 1000 is extremely well built and is likely to last you just as long as any of those other bits of gear. So the Ruckus says the gamble is whether or not the latest gear acquired will be the last for a while. Jorge, Phil, I'm already on my third controller, all Pioneer, but I keep getting better and I always change the old one for a new one. So it's good that you do that, but do you feel you should have bought the one you've got now first? Do you feel it was a mistake stepping up, or was that okay? Sometimes, of course, the gear just doesn't work out for you. And that's what happened with Darren, who said, I've had enough of the Prime Go. I spent more time at Denon and still they're repaired and another issue, so I wouldn't buy Denon again. Soon I'm going to buy a Pioneer XDJ XZ, which we've got there. This one here, which is a very reliable controller. You can just see the back end of it there. See it a bit better there. You can see the left-hand deck on that shot of the Pioneer DDJ XZ. I wonder if I can zoom out a bit here. Let's see if I can zoom out a bit. You'll see all the mess around the gear, but maybe that'll be a bit of fun. There we go. See that a bit better. Oh, that's the only shot we've got, that one there. Any more on the camera's zoomed out. But there you go. There's a bit more of that gear on that table. So Darren, I'm sad to hear that. I use the Denon Go a lot, actually, and I've not had problems with it yet. So there we go. So Ronald says, again, I think companies help push gas because every little thing makes you a better DJ than people who didn't have it. Yeah, but it doesn't. It doesn't. DJing is about the right tracks in the right order for the people in front of you, and most stuff can be mapped, to be honest. So I don't buy the gear makes you a better DJ bit. So that answers your question, Dat Boy, who says, I always feel my gear is never powerful or versatile enough. Now, it's probably a good time for me to talk about the thing I wanted to end off with. And the reason is that you just mentioned it, Dat Boy. I was talking to Jazzy Jeff, DJ Jazzy Jeff, like less than an hour ago. And we were talking about the old days of record decks and reel-to-reel tape and things like this. And he was talking about how he used to have I think he said it had a 303, a Roland 303 bassline machine. It could have been an 808. I think he said a 303. No, it must have been one of the drum machines. It must have been an 808. But he said he used to have it linked up to a Boss effects pedal, a guitar effects pedal. And he'd got it so that the effects pedal was a sampler. It was a very early sampler with a microphone in it, and he got it so that one of the drums on the drum machine would trigger the sample pedal, and so he could talk into a microphone and turn the pedal up and it would repeat what he said when this drum hit. And he's talking to me about how he used to set up beats. This is in the late 80s. And it struck me that what Jeff was doing was something that DJs have always done, which is hack their gear. You know, we've always hacked gear. The Technics turntable was not designed as a DJ turntable. It was designed as a hi-fi turntable. And DJs took it on, and the art of DJing as we know it was invented. My first decks were not DJ decks. Steve Canueto's first decks, he made from old hi-fi decks. You know, DJs have always hacked gear together. So this is going against the idea that if you buy a piece of DJ gear and it hasn't got every function on it, it's not worth having, you know. Hack it. There's always a way of doing stuff. And the other thing is, we filmed a DJ course that's coming out soon with DJ Angelo called DJ Angelo's Tricks and Transitions. And if you know DJ Angelo, and if you don't, by the way, check him out. He's a very highly technical DJ. But Angelo, it was interesting to talk to him because he said he only uses 2 decks. Now, Angelo does wordplay, tone play, pitch play. Angelo does... he's very, very careful with his key matching and harmonic mixing. Angelo does multi-genres, multi-BPMs. He's not a technically limited DJ. But he said, I only use 2 decks. And I was like, why is that, mate? And he said, well, I think limitation makes you more creative. And we need to remember this when we are getting hung up on the latest DJ gear. Limitation makes you more creative. Not having every bell and whistle forces you to find a way around issues, which can actually come up with really interesting things and interesting sounds and interesting ideas. So it's worth remembering this stuff. And if any of you are photographers, you know, basically a camera's got 3 controls. It's got aperture, shutter speed, and film speed, or ISO. And with those 3 things and focus, you can pretty much do every photo that's ever been taken. The rest of it is just extras, which is why every photographer knows it's possible to take great pictures on all cameras if you understand those things. And it's the same with DJing. If you understand the basics of beat matching, of lining beats up, of rhythm, of when and where to mix tracks, and of keeping an eye on who you're playing to, and making sure you're getting that feedback loop with your audience going, it doesn't matter. You can do that on one of these, but you can mess that up on every piece of gear that you see there. So do bear that in mind. DJing is not about gear, and it's about limitations and about hacks sometimes. Let's get some more of your comments. Robert says, don't stop reviewing gear. Oh, don't worry. We love gear as much as the next person. We're not going to stop reviewing gear, that's for certain. So lots of you asking questions which are not truly related to this. Just come back on Thursday and we'll definitely answer those questions there. Jerry learned on Technics and a CDJ 100, so there we go. So although I don't suffer from gas yet, says Fergoot, I've had GAP, gear analysis paralysis. Oh, I love that. Before getting my new Pioneer DDJ 800. Yeah, you know, one of the most asked questions here is, you know, do I buy this or do I buy this? So yeah, GAP. I like that one. Maybe that is for a further one of these. Maybe we'll do it next week. So Ben, hello Ben, who is our community manager here at Digital DJ Tips. Hannah, that's Ben's wife, had to have a word with me the other day. She wasn't happy she couldn't store some of her stuff in the cellar as I filled it with PA speakers. A lot of people take up digital DJing because it's smaller. You know, they don't need decks, mixer, and a whole wall of records anymore. They can do it all on their phone now, you know. So that's a story we've heard before. Thank you for that, Ben. William says, just send me all that gear and let me decide if I have gas. Okay, well, we'll bear that one in mind. Thank you for that. Thank you for that, William. The Ruckus is listing all his gear, but saying I don't have gas, honest. So we'll be the judge of that, the Ruckus. Let's pull one or two more of your comments off then. I'm just scrolling down now. Pepe had the same Vestax controller as me. That's cool. Someone on our Facebook group says, I think that for some people, gear acquisition syndrome is just part of the fun. Yes, it can be a problem, but also you've got to admit that all the gear out there is just plain cool and fun to play with. You know, this is the amateur versus the professional, I think. While the professionals love their gear, they tend to stick to it for a decade or life. But yes, agree completely. The Ruckus says, funny that Serato was also called Itch. So it was originally called Itch. So what they did was, this is the history lesson here, Serato Scratch existed, so then they went for Serato Itch, which was the controller version of Serato Scratch. Serato Scratch was for turntables, and then they combined them both into Serato DJ Pro. So I think they must have been watching The Simpsons and the Itchy and Scratchy show and thought that would be funny, but terrible name for DJ software, right? Itch, terrible. I was deep into buying tractor gear, says Steve. Now I've gone to Recordbox and XDJ, XZ, but always go back to my Technics. I spend more on vinyl than anything. Another reason people spend money on gear, of course, is that they change their software. And that's what I was talking about a bit ago, wasn't it? You know, pick your software first. It's why we've got more software courses than hardware courses, because software is complicated. Software powers the gear. Software is the thing that hopefully you never have to change, even if your gear changes over time. AB, I just don't care about gear as long as it's got play and the EQs are there. 2-channel or 4-channel, as long as it sounds good, I'm in. And I think that is a healthy way of looking at it. DJ Rubik's is now admitting to a bit of gas here and there, but I've defaulted to my DDJ 1000. Oh, but you've had problems with durability, you're saying. Okay. Yeah, you know, the most durable gear is Pro Gear, but I'd say the DDJ 1000 gets pretty close. I've just bought my first controller, says Enea. It's the DDJ Wego 1. Oh no, you bought your first controller in 2015 and recently you've upgraded to the DDJ 1000. Both do the same thing though, yeah, and 2 bits of gear in 5 years is pretty good. Unknown Grooves says, I really regret buying my Pioneer 1000 SRT as Serato is not supported by Big Saw. What other controllers would you recommend? Just hang on. It won't be long before Serato is supported there, and in the future don't upgrade your operating system until they tell you, and you won't have that problem. So all of the DJ software will play what most DJs want. That's very true, Ronald. So the controllers are just a physical interface. Yes, they are. They do have an audio interface in them, so I can show you on this very simple controller here how it works. So this is a DJ controller, right, and this has got a lead to plug into your computer, right? That's it. And this is just an interface. This is doing basically what this can do. You can control DJ software from a keyboard, but you don't get the ability to spin things and move sliders. So for instance, the volume slider might be up and down keys on a keyboard and you have to hold it. It's not as good. And you know, your nudge might be on 2 other keys. You can DJ fine on a keyboard. It's much more fun on a DJ controller, but essentially it's just a computer MIDI interface. It's just not even MIDI, it's just a computer interface. Actually, it is MIDI, but it's just an interface. Just think of it like a posh keyboard. And really, that's it apart from the audio interface. Now, the audio interface is a bit extra that you get in controllers. So you can always tell if a controller's got an audio interface because it's got audio sockets on the back, and it's somewhere else, it's got a headphone socket. Now, this solves a problem with laptops, because a laptop has only got one audio output, right? On your laptop, you've got your headphones output, and that's it. So if you want to plug in speakers and a pair of headphones, you can't do it, because that's called a 2-out audio interface on a laptop. It's actually called a 1-in, 2-out audio interface, because it's got one mono channel in, which is the microphone, and 2 or 1 stereo channel or 2 mono channels out. Whereas one of these has got a 4-out audio interface built into it. So in there is a little chip which is the same as the one in your laptop but a bit better. for audio. And that allows it to have a stereo output for your headphones and a stereo output for your speakers. And so it has two things in one. And actually the early DJ controllers didn't have audio interfaces in them. You had to go and buy an audio interface separately. But now, which is why they're sometimes still called sound cards, because sound cards were literally a card that plugged into a desktop computer that had those sockets poking out the back. So that's all DJ controllers do. They are pretty dumb boxes otherwise, which is why the software is the important thing. So we're talking about gear acquisition syndrome, GAS, today. And if you are just joining us, it's probably because you weren't subscribed. You didn't know we were live. You just stumbled over this. So do it. Subscribe. Click the bell. Click follow this page. Click like this channel. Do all that stuff. Wherever you're watching, Twitch, Facebook group, YouTube Live, wherever else we are, Mixcloud Live, wherever you're watching, follow, and then you can join us live from the beginning. But there will be a recording of this available on YouTube and Facebook afterwards if you've missed it. So hello to our people over on Mixcloud, Jimmy, and to DJ Knowledge, who says, I'll stick with what I currently use. So there we go. A brother named Sherm says, don't go overboard, but I do think it's better to buy something above your level and grow into it. So I like that. Good tip there. And continues, I use a DJ M350, which is quite an old mixer, with a CDJ 3000, which are quite modern. A simple 2-channel mixer with very limited effects for practice. It keeps me humble. So there you go. Keeping yourself humble by keeping your gear simple. I like that, mind you. The DDJ 3000s aren't very humble. But thank you for that. That was some comments from over on our Mixcloud channel. So let's get some more live comments here before we finish off for today. I'm just going to try and pull out some things which are a little bit different to what has been said before. I don't have gas, says DJ Sago, because I'm poor. Well, there we go. But I'm sure your old tractor system is working just fine for you. Lots of you asking when new gear is coming, but this isn't the time to talk about that. Brian, my rule of thumb would be if it does what you want, why change it? I appreciate that systems change, but the main parts are the same as ever. Now, my hobby outside of this is photography. I take it very lightly. I'm not a prolific photographer at all. But I don't see any reason to change my camera. For instance, I've got a reasonably cheap Canon mirrorless camera because of what I said earlier. You know, photography is about aperture, it's about shutter speed, it's about film speed and focus, and then arguably it's about having the right lens for the job. But that's it really. Everything else is add-on, and I can do it with what I've got. So I don't see the point in spending extra money on stuff in my photography. I do spend a lot of time reading about gear though, I've got to admit. So I'm in as much as anyone else. Frederick says, one main thing you really should do is buy the expensive gear. I guess you're saying first time. If you buy the XDJ RR because it's cheaper, you're still going to dream about the RX2 or the RXZ. So save the money and buy the expensive one instead of being cheap. I would agree with you there, Frederick, with one caveat. I think it's better to go for a very cheap system first. And I keep holding up this party mix just because it happens to be there. But, you know, a very cheap DJ system first, because you might not stick with DJing. And if you do stick with DJing, then you'll know what you want when it comes to buying the expensive system, and you won't make an expensive mistake. And you can keep the cheap system as a backup device, right? So my only caveat would be buy cheap, keep the cheap, then buy expensive when you know what you want and you've got your two systems there. I keep finding excuses to buy an additional pair of Technics. You've got it bad, Watson. I've sometimes convinced myself I need the Mark 7s as well, even though you've already got 6 turntables. I wouldn't recommend the Mark 7s. I'm not impressed with them. Play with them before you buy them. Tim says a rule of thumb is never buy the bleeding edge gear. Don't get caught in that trap. The advantage of buying stuff that's a few years into a product cycle is it's more reliable and most of the issues are ironed out. That goes back to what I was saying about don't upgrade your operating system until everyone else has been the guinea pig, doesn't it? So a few of you are saying that the DDJ 1000 is not quite as durable as it should be. Ours has been flawless for the past 5 years or whatever, but obviously not always the case. Is there a place where you can turn in discontinued gear? I would say eBay is the place for that, or your local municipal recycling department. Phil's Gear Shop would make an awesome desktop wallpaper. Do you want to screenshot that? Do you want me to tidy this one up for you? Not very tidy. I could have done a better job of it if I knew you wanted to wallpaper it. There you go. Take a screenshot of that, and you can put it on your wallpaper. Or you could have that one as well. That look a bit nicer? That's a bit nicer, isn't it? It's a bit prettier. It's got the out of focus bits. That's a wide aperture and a tight focus on the mid to distant. There you go. That's a photographer of me coming out there. Right. One or two more questions, or one or two more bits of feedback, and we'll be out of here for today. I think we've done this topic. Pete's pointing out that Z-Trip uses the foot pedal in his live sets for echo. Oh yeah, people still use foot pedals now. Certainly a lot of mixers are designed so that you can easily put an output into a foot pedal. In fact, the Pioneer V10 mixer, the big new Pioneer mixer, has got the equivalent of echo, reverb and delay foot pedals built into it with the same systems, because they saw so many DJs using them. They've built them in as a separate thing. So there's a little aside for you there. Today, this is not at all anything to do with this, but I'm going to put it up. It is the 30th anniversary of 808 States Turbo Rave at the GMEX in Manchester. Did you go, Phil? No, I didn't. What year are we on? 2021 March. I was in my final year at university in Sheffield, just over the Pennines. I was yet to return to Manchester. It was summer 1991. I returned to my home city of Manchester and to the incredible city it had become while I had my back turned. I had a good 15 years there from that point onwards. But anyway, limitation does indeed force you to be more creative. Thank you for sharing that, Sergeant Paul, and I agree completely. Marcus is saying, if possible, at your convenience, a quick coffee in Gibraltar and a personal chat. And to purchase a copy of your book, yeah, Marcus, drop me an email at info@digitaldjtips.com and say you spoke to me here, and we'll figure that out somehow, because we are indeed, assuming you're in Gibraltar too, in the same place, and it ain't a big place, is it? So Brian learnt on Citronics turntables, but moved to Denon MC6000s, but the same principles. Some gear makes you less aware of your crowd. If you know your gear, there's no need to change. So does the gap not depend on your development as a DJ? This is the gear analysis paralysis that you're talking about, I think there, Lapora. You can develop as a DJ on any gear. In fact, you should develop on any gear. You shouldn't tie yourself to one kind of gear. And that doesn't mean buy loads of gear. It just means try everything. And then you corrected that to gas actually afterwards. So no, you don't need to acquire gear to be a good DJ. It's the same response there. So DJ Fuzz says, I missed the start of the show. I always get the latest top end gear. How can I be cured of this? Well, if you don't need curing, then you haven't got a problem, DJ Fuzz. But if you want a cure, realize that gear won't make you a better DJ. Realize that limitations are going to help you, and realize that hacking gear is part of what DJs have already done. And so actually you're going to be getting closer to DJing as it's always been done, not further away from it, by just sticking with what you've got and trying to find a way to get out of your head the sounds that you want. And Michael, who featured at the beginning because we pulled the Facebook page up, says, I'm late, sorry bro, I do need treatment for my gas after all. Well, on the face, you see, this is a problem with you addicts, right? You addicts, half the time you think you need treatment and half the time you don't. This is the same person, Michael, earlier on. This isn't even a problem. I'm just going to pull this up. That's Michael a day ago. In fact, an hour ago. And this is Michael now. Same Michael. I'm sorry, I do need treatment. I'm joking, Michael. You know I'm joking. But yeah, we do veer between thinking this is all right and thinking we've got a problem, don't we? Michael, by the way, is one of our best, longest running veteran students. He teaches us stuff nowadays. And he's a very beloved member of the Digital DJ Tips community. So I can tease. He's one of the people I can tease. Sai says, you keep telling us this is great and that's great, so we go smash the credit card. It's all your fault, Phil. Oh, we're all adults here. I'm not buying that one. And Stephen's listing all his gear there. Yep, I think we can safely say, Stephen, you are indeed a gear addict syndrome sufferer. Right, I'm going to stop there, people. Thank you very much for joining us. If you want to come over to the Facebook page and join in the debate there, go to Digital DJ Tips on Facebook, facebook.com/Digital DJ Tips, and right there near the top you're going to find the post, which, as we've been on air, has probably grown. Let's just refresh that page and see if we've got any more. I guess most people are on here chatting about this now, but I would imagine it was a very busy topic. I would imagine there's even more people now commenting. Yeah, look at that, half a dozen more comments in the time we've been on air. But come and join us. Come and join us over on Facebook and discuss this further if you would like. Thank you wherever you've joined us today, whether you're on Twitch, whether you're on Mixcloud Live, whether you're on Facebook, the page or the group, or on YouTube Live. It's been a pleasure to bring the show to you. This has been Tuesday Tips Live. Join me again on Thursday at the same time for our Any Questions Q&A, where you can ask anything you want. And join me, look at your watch, about 20 minutes from now on Sunday for Balcony Beats 28, an hour of chilled out music played from my balcony 15 floors up here in Gibraltar as we watch the sun go down. What could be nicer? Yeah, we love our chill out sessions on a Sunday, so come join me for that. And by the way, if you saw Steve last Sunday, he did a brilliant job of his house set. He had loads of visuals going on. It was really exciting, and you can see the replay on the YouTube channel. And by the way, if you're on YouTube and you're not subscribed, you know what to do, people. All that's left for me to say is, look, get good, get out there, make the moments, and I'll see you again on Thursday.